It's time for today's Face-Off on Fox Soul. Challengers Quan LX and Big Angry Adams ready to go blow by blow on those hot topics. Face-Off on Fox Soul starts right now.
There is a video going around, and I don't want to say like 100% that it is Drake. I mean, it looks like Drake. Okay, it looks like Drake. But for the legality, I'm gonna be like, well, woohoo. But y'all, he got leaked. And it seems like he took this video by his own regard, okay? And he's just swinging it around like a 3-year-old. Like, what? How can you have this much money, be worth that much, and take a risk like this? Just wide open, just bald eagle spread out. This is not what I thought was good. This is not what I thought I was going to talk about today.
In this round, here's Quan LX.
Charles, this is probably an uncomfortable subject that we're discussing here, at least for me it is. One of the world's greatest leading hip-hop artists of the past decade and even longer is Drake. In fact, many believe he's the #1 ranked hip-hop artist in the country when it comes to album sales, concert sales, etc., attendance. There's a video that's been released by someone that obviously he knows that had a personal private video of him in a room, and he was engaging himself. And this video obviously has been leaked to the media, leaked to the public, probably via social media, and he's came out now at a concert somewhat indirectly admitting that possibly, yes, the video is his. In the video, you see him stretched out. You see him doing something I'm sure you can relate to with the challenges you had in life of him stroking his bone, choking his chicken. And I would hope and pray that many young men who look at this, especially men of substance, men of power, well, just young men, period, don't take a video of yourself pleasuring yourself like that and give it to anyone, because if they ever decide to blackmail you with it, ever decide to sell it and destroy your name or tarnish your image, it can happen like that. But for the man to be as popular and as important as he is, Charles, it's a shame that it's been leaked. I hate we got to talk about it, but you would think the brother be a little more intelligent than allowing somebody to get a hold of such a video.
First of all, Drake is very intelligent, incredibly successful, and unlike a hip-hop journalist or artist we spoke of earlier in the week, has a long-standing reputation of being incredibly generous to those around him, of helping the people he grew up with and the people that that helped him on his career in the early stages, of lifting them up. He's got deep ties to the Houston rap community,
yes,
and he has made sure that all the beaks are wetted, that everybody has stayed involved and everybody's been paid other than just himself. He's not someone that looks out just for himself. He is someone that looks out for everyone. And for you to sit here and say he's not intelligent, I think it's probably because he's half white, so he's biracial, so you're criticizing him when you won't criticize Jay-Z.
And
it doesn't sound like you just called him dumb. You just called Drake dumb.
Let me finish.
No. Why should I let you finish? You're interrupting me.
Any man
You're interrupting
to take a sexual video of himself and send it to any damn body. That's crazy as hell. Is he a good brother? Yes. Does he take care of those of his inner circle? Yes. Does he look out for those who've helped him come up and rise? Yes, he is. And he's somebody we should protect. But if our brother made a mistake by releasing a video of him sexually pleasing himself, it's not something he should do. You and I are older men. He's much younger than us. But you and I both know if you got somebody strapped up, man, he's stroking away, man, stroking away. How in the hell we going to tell him that's okay to send it to somebody and let it go out to the public?
First off, why are you acting like you stroke like this when we know you stroking with tweezers?
No, I came from here.
That's one.
I came from here.
That's one.
And I came from here and went down.
Two.
Now you.
Why,
you've been on
earlier.
You got to find it. You got to find it.
Earlier, you were talking about me doing it, which is creepy that you were visualizing it, because I don't rock like that.
That's what he did on video.
And I'm sorry you're fantasizing
and no
about me.
Man should allow that to be released
but here's
or
the
send
thing.
it to somebody, man.
It's not a smart thing to do if you don't believe that the partner that you're sending to, if y'all have a trusting relationship, right? Like when this is revenge porn, this is horrible. He's a victim somebody victimized him.
He should sue her.
Let me finish.
He should sue her
You know,
and file charges.
I also remember on Monday you cried and criticized all white people because I interrupted you. But the truth is, you interrupt me constantly, right?
I'm sorry.
But here's the thing.
I was just trying to help
you. Are using this as a vehicle to criticize Drake when. In this situation, this is presumably he shared it with a female. This is a female that is engaging in revenge porn and victimizing him.
And he should sue her and file charges. That's illegal.
This younger generation communicates in a different way than we did, right? And one of the ways they have sexual relationships is the way they communicate in all ways is online and on phones and in a different way than we do. And it's become very commonplace. Now, because his fame, probably a bad idea, but it's not stupid. He's not stupid for trusting a woman.
So you're telling me it's not stupid
He's a victim.
to take he is a victim. I agree.
You were calling him dumb a minute
But wait
ago.
a minute.
All
It
right,
is
you're
absolutely dumb for any man to take a sexual video of himself and send it to a woman that you think you can trust.
You know what? It's dumb.
If it's your wife, okay.
It's dumb.
If it's your wife, okay.
You
But
don't-
if she ain't your wife, you don't send it to nobody.
You don't know what kind of relationship he has with this woman.
I wouldn't give a damn what kind of she got with her. If that's not his wife, you don't send like to anybody
It's
like that.
And who knows? It might have been somebody that broke into her phone. We had all kind of female superstars right here in town. We had
Broke
Kate
into her
Upton.
phone.
Kate Upton, right, was exposed. We had famous people get their iClouds get broken into, and they were victimized. Here, Drake is being victimized. And instead of recognizing him as a victim, you are making fun of him.
Recognize him
You
as
are
being a victim.
condemning him. You are
And
calling
probably-
him stupid.
and
the only reason
an
you
attempt to
didn't start,
extort
you know,
him.
I want to point out to the
Probably
listeners.
an attempt to
I want to
extort
point
him.
out to the listeners that he didn't begin this like he did with Brandon Johnson yesterday. He didn't start off with Brother Drake, right? And he didn't start off with Brother Drake because Drake is biracial, right? And in Quan LX,
What's wrong with that?
Quan LX,
What's wrong with that?
You classify
Some of our
everyone
greatest
based
leaders
on their skin
in the
color.
black community were biracial.
Right, I agree.
Minister Farrakhan had a white
But you are
grandfather.
calling him
So
stupid.
you cannot say that.
You are calling him
My
stupid.
own
and
son
you are
has
condemning
a
him.
white grandmother.
You
So
are
you cannot
condemning
say
him,
that.
and you're talking bad about him because he was biracial. And if he was a fully black male, you wouldn't
stop
be
it.
doing that because
Ain't
you're
none
a
of us
bigot.
fully black.
Drake,
look at my skin color.
Drake,
I'm not an African from Africa like I'm fully
is
black.
a victim.
That
He
wasn't
was
smart.
victimized. Now,
Look.
the girl might have been victimized too. Somebody might have broken into
Maybe.
her phone,
I doubt
or
it.
she released it.
I doubt
and
it.
she's a criminal, right?
And she
we
should be
shouldn't
prosecuted.
We shouldn't be sitting here criticizing Drake. We should feel
Charles.
bad for him being a victim of
Charles,
revenge porn.
brothers
But you're
gotta be
talking
smarter.
about him because he's
Brothers gotta be
light-skinned.
smarter.
He's light-skinned.
Brothers gotta
so
be
you're
smarter.
gonna sit here and talk
Brothers
about
gotta
him.
be smarter. You don't make a video yourself like that and send it to no
Before
woman
the
that's
camera
not your
started
wife.
rolling, you talk about Drake's
If that's
music.
not your
you
wife-
accuse him of being pop. You don't think he's black enough.
I
and
never
it's,
said
and it's
that.
absolute
Off
nonsense.
the record, on the
Drake
record. On
is
camera,
one of the
off
best
camera. I
artists
never said
in
that.
this universe.
See how you white folks lie?
He's in this universe.
See how you
Great
white folks
guy.
lie?
Great. He's a nice guy.
See how white folks
People
lie?
that
I
rich
never said
don't
that.
have to be that nice.
But you
he is
criticize
famous
Jay-Z
and he's
for
nice.
being rich.
No, I criticize JB for being
you
a
don't like
whiny
black
narcissistic.
men that are rich.
The truth is, he got up there and whined.
Man, look,
because he's a crybaby.
don't stroke
Drake
your
did.
bone.
Drake is.
Don't choke the chicken and send it to
Man,
nobody that's not
you
your
know
wife.
What? You're about to go home and do it.
We gonna see your video next.
Hey, Drake,
we gonna
I'm
see
sorry.
your video next.
I'm sorry you're a victim,
With that goddamn
Drake.
limp noodle. We gonna see your video next.
Team Drake for life.
In this round, here's Charles Big Angry Adams.
Interesting quote retweet on Twitter from conservative blogger and journalist Matt Walsh. A user named Uzi, who has the handle Fallon144, tweeted, "Slavery is white history. How we survived it is black history." Matt Walsh retweeted, he said, "Slavery is world history. White people did not invent it, and we're not the first to practice it, but we're the first to abolish it. The last place in the world to still have legal slavery was Africa. It wasn't fully legally abolished on the continent until 1981. And Matt is 100% accurate, right? The roots of slavery run to the established by historians and anthropologists, run to Egypt, on the planet, right, in about 1580 BC. And they have become it remained as, so it actually remains today. We've seen just in the last 2 decades since the fall of the murder, in my opinion, of Muammar Gaddafi, you saw widespread slavery, enslavement, and actual open slave markets of migrants trying to go from Central Africa to Western Europe, being captured and enslaved in Libya during the period of mass lawlessness when there was really no total government regime. And that was, Libya went from being one of the most secular, successful countries on the continent. During the 1800s, right, and well, as far back as the 1600s, you had pirates, African pirates from the Barbary Coast, capturing white merchant ships and selling white people into slavery. Now, does that diminish in any way the absolute horror of the transatlantic slave trade and the consequence and reality of it? It absolutely does not. In fact, going even further, white racists today love to point the finger at the coastal Africans who would travel into the interior of Africa to capture Africans. So black people capturing other black people and selling them in slavery is somehow a misplacing or mispointing the blame. It's not. It doesn't. It's repugnant. The transatlantic slave trade and slavery in America is horrifying. But those that pretend that there is some sort of monopoly on slavery for white people are being dishonest. And they're just like those that pretend there's some sort of monopoly on colonialism. The truth is, at this period of America or world history, that it was predominantly perpetrated by white people. But throughout human history, it was absolutely not the case. And slavery in Africa persisted throughout slavery in America, and it actually lasted longer. And just like the Western world was the first place to come up with the concept of democracy and individual liberty, the Western world was also the first place to come up with the concept of religious freedom and extend that concept to everyone, right? And we still see in parts of Africa and parts of the Middle East where women aren't allowed to vote, aren't allowed to be educated, aren't allowed to go into McDonald's, aren't allowed to do all kinds of things because they're treated as a subclass. And we also see in wealthy parts of the Middle East like Qatar and other places where people from the Philippines, parts of Southeast Asia, and parts of Africa are still treated as slaves, right? It's all horrible. And this pretense, this academic pretense, this pretense that you have made a living on, all white people are evil, humanity has a taste for evil, right? And it's irrespective of skin color. And humanity needs to recognize that, and we all know. I'm going to talk till I'm done, but go ahead. No. Go. You ain't even wearing a watch. Well, you lost your watch. Somebody stole it. White guy stole it.
It's Skin Black 30.
Okay.
So let me say
what
this
is
to
Skin
you.
Black 30? What time is that?
For him to say that white people were the first to abolish it is an absolute lie.
That's not true.
Slavery has been practiced all over the world for centuries. This is true. And I can challenge and work with you and even agree with you to some degree.
It's funny because earlier you said it wasn't true. You said it was just white.
Let me finish, that it was not invented by them.
Okay.
But slavery was not first to be abolished by white people. That's a lie. Do you realize that Mexico abolished slavery way before America did? And that was part of the reason why Mexico went to war with Texas and General Sam Houston. Secondly, do you realize that Prophet Muhammad ibn Abdullah, he forbidden slavery and abolished slavery among Muslims in the Muslim world, and only after his death did some deviate and go back to it? So we cannot say that white people were the first to abolish it. That's the absolute lie. But white people were the first in human history to base slavery solely on a skin color. They were the first to do that one. They were the unique bringers of skin color slavery. They own that one. So I just want to say that slavery is wrong no matter who it is. And yes, we have some African brothers who worked with European slaveholders and slave traders to capture their own brothers and sisters. The same way you had right here in America, you had some Indians who worked with the quote-unquote settlers to help destroy and bring down and enslave other Indians and from other Indian tribes. It's evil, it's wrong, but it does not negate what happened in the transatlantic slave trade right here in America.
Who was trying to negate that?
This writer.
He absolutely was
this
not.
writer.
And I disagree
Mr.
with
Walsh.
I disagree with
Mr.
Walsh on everything. But let me first of all, no, white Europe, Western Europe did not invent ethnic-based slavery. It's not true. In fact, ethnic-based slavery was found originally in Africa, and it was people
On
of
skin
lighter
color?
Yes, people
On skin color.
lighter color.
Man, you done lost your mind. Tell me that damn lie.
It enslaved Jews.
On skin color.
The lighter skin, the Middle Easterns, which weren't called Middle Easterns back then, but their ethnicities, not African, would enslave blacks.
And it was based on skin color?
There were blacks that enslaved white sailors, right, in the 60s.
And it was based on skin color.
It was based on skin
You're
color.
a damn
And
lie,
the thing
Charles.
is,
Absolute lying, Charles.
No, you're the one lying. But here's the real
White
rub.
folks were the
So let's-
only people in the
hold
annals
on.
of history
Let's talk about-
and human
let's talk
history
about-
to
wait,
base
wait,
slavery
let me-
solely based on a skin color.
Okay. When Mexico abolished slavery, I know history is hard. You have to read books. I know it's difficult for you. But at that time,
No,
and to this day,
his
I know,
story is hard.
and to this
History
day-
is great,
Okay.
but his story is hard
So-
because history is written by the
Okay.
conquerors and never the conquered. I do like reading you lying white folks' books, though.
When Mexico abolished slavery, Mexico was controlled by Castilian Spaniards, who are white people. Right, to this day in Mexico, indigenous people.
The original Spaniards are not white, Charles.
Okay, yes, they
That's a
are.
lie.
Okay, it just happens
The
to be
original
Europe.
Spaniards are not white.
Okay, now you really, you're about, to this day, persistent in Mexico. There is a racism.
A civil rights struggle.
No, there is a racism directed at indigenous people or people that appear
The
indigenous.
Chiapas Indians.
That are shorter, that have flatter faces.
Dark skin.
That have, the
Chiapas Indians.
But those that abolished it, those are white people.
That's an absolute damn lie.
It's absolutely not.
They were brown
But-
people
no, they
who
weren't.
abolished slavery
They
in
weren't.
Mexico.
They
Those were
weren't.
brown people. There wasn't no damn white folks. Those were brown
you
people.
You probably think Spanish was created in Mexico. It was created in Spain.
No.
And the
No.
conquistadors engaged
Mexico
in
was
widespread
first founded by
genocide
the Aztec
and killed-
Indians, the Mayan kingdom.
Okay.
That's what we call Mexico today. I understand Hispaniola and the Spaniards, but I'm sorry, the
Okay,
original Spaniards were not white,
who
sir.
invented the language
Do
of
your
Spain?
research.
Who invented the language of Spain?
Excuse me?
Spanish. Who invented Spanish?
Hispaniola.
No, it is a Romance language. It is a
Oh,
derivative
my
of
God.
Latin. Like
Now you're gonna tell me
lie.
English is a Romance language.
No, English is actually not a
It's a
Romance
bastard
language.
language,
No,
English.
English is an amalgam.
It's a bastard language.
Mostly based
no
on
root.
Latin.
No
but
root.
a
It's the
secondary
amalgamation
based on
of different
German.
languages.
But
No root.
Spanish is
No
based on-
father.
You just make stupid stuff up. It's hilarious.
Bless your heart. White folks into slavery first.
Maybe you should read a book.
No, maybe you should read the right book.
Oh. I'm a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was, my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
Yeah. So how are you feeling, my friend?
I think it's actually pretty interesting that my husband and I have shared roots.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that. And I think it's great for our children to know this information. I guess it's a fact of life that this is how some people made their living.
In this round, here's Quanell X.
Charles, we watched a segment here coming into the show about Sonny Hostin, who's a co-host on The View, speaking with Dr. Henry Louis Gates about her family tree and coming to the realization that her grandfather, great-great-grandfather, was a slave holder and slave trader, and she always seen herself as quote-unquote Puerto Rican. I say to Sister Sonny, you are still Puerto Rican because your mother and father were both born and raised in Puerto Rico, where you directly come from their lineage. But to recognize that you had a white member in your family being a slave trader is nothing shocking. We have millions of black people in America who can trace their ancestral bloodline back to white families. And so many of us are so many different colors in the black community. Why? Because of sexual rape that took place by slave owners against black women who produce half white, half black children. Thomas Jefferson, one of the founding fathers of this country, did the same thing. Had black children, half white, half black children, with Sally Hemings, his slave, and then kept his own children in slavery. So she should not feel bad that her ancestral bloodline has a white man in it that was a slave holder. Hell, right here in America, all of us who are not pure dark-skinned black folk can do the same thing, trace our ancestral bloodline back to slave owners right here in America who were white.
So Sonny famously, 3 years ago, condemned this country as still being overwhelmingly racist because she talked about an incident, although she didn't mention the race of the people calling her son names, saying they used the N-word on the beach. Now, of course, she has, for long in her career, used the vehicle of race-based guilt, used the vehicle of race-based criticism. And what Henry Louis Gates, an incredible academic, a brilliant man, not just an academic leader, but a leader in so many fields, has had a number of people. He had the famous activist Angela Davis, and exposed to her that she was a descendant of the Mayflower, right? As, you know, my grandparents traced our lineage back to. Does that mean she is the product of slave rape? Absolutely not. You speak generally because it is horrible. Any sexual relations that were engaged of during a slave relationship was rape. Even if both parties, because it's still rape and it's evil. But the truth is, people have sex, right? And the truth is that a lot of sexual relations over the centuries weren't based on that, and that we will probably get to, the only time we're going to get to a good America is when we have racially blended completely, so we can't accuse any of them.
I think it's a beautiful idea.
And well, yeah, it would be a beautiful idea, but people like
because won't be no white folks.
People like you want to condemn people. And
No,
what you
I
do.
agree with your
Now,
idea.
Let me finish.
Let's have
Let me
racial,
finish.
interracial love all over the place.
Let me finish.
And in 40 years, you can say good night.
Let me finish.
Won't be nobody looking like you, buddy.
Okay, let me finish. Okay, what you said to Sonny Hostin is that she shouldn't feel guilty because she's Puerto Rican. But the truth is, no one should feel guilty because of the skin color they're born in. Now, I know you think white people should all feel guilty from the moment of birth because they have this collective responsibility.
That's not true.
You say it all the time.
That's an
right?
absolute
No,
lie.
You're lying for convenience. But
Total lie.
Like my father. My father was born in Venezuela, was raised in Venezuela, had to choose between American citizenship and Venezuelan citizenship when he was entering draft age, right? Because he grew up, he went during Vietnam, and he had to go, he would chose the American service, right? Now, he was born of white parents. Now, I could have had my children lie on all their college applications. Well, not lie.
Like the
They could have
senator?
checked it. Right, like a lot of people. Don't even talk to me about that scumbag. She was one of my, I didn't have her class, but she was a professor at Harvard when I was there. But Pocahontas, is that what we call her?
Fakeahontas.
Yeah. But right now we're in this paradigm where my kids, who are very well educated, they would have had a lot more academic opportunity, other than tremendous, if they would have checked the box Latin, because their grandfather is Venezuelan. He got blue eyes. He had blonde hair. It would be a disgusting, repugnant lie. But maybe in America, maybe nobody should feel guilty about someone that they never knew, that was not alive when they were alive, that they had nothing to do with, that did something 100 years ago, 150 years ago. If you had a murderer for a parent, that ain't your fault. You shouldn't feel any guilt. If you, now, my grandparents were into that kind of stuff. They've traced it. There's no one in my lineage that had ever owned slaves. We were poor people. But had they, I don't have a responsibility. I didn't do it, right? I am responsible for my actions.
You're not
I am
responsible.
responsible for my decision. You've been saying white people are responsible
That's
for it
not
all
what
the
I
time.
said.
Oh, white people have a debt.
That's not what I
No, you've
said.
said it for years.
That's not
you
what I said.
literally change
I
your
said-
position
I said
whenever
white
it's convenient.
people benefited
You know what? You know what? Hey,
directly
just
because of what
you
their
lie all the
ancestors
time,
did.
Just because you lie
They
all
were
the time,
put in a privileged
it doesn't
position
in any way,
because of what their
it doesn't
ancestors
in any
did.
way impact
Now,
the
they are not
analysis of
directly
any other black
responsible
person.
for it, but they have responsibility to acknowledge the truth of it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to go back to the beginning of the show when Quanell called Drake not intelligent or stupid. I forget the language that he used. We live in this paradigm where sometimes we allow gender or gender identity to impact our analysis of victimization, right? We all remember when it was the believe all women cry for sexual assault. when I've always said, you don't need to believe anyone. What everyone needs, everyone deserves, is an investigation and victimization, whether they're a man or a woman, because everyone has the same capacity for dishonesty and repugnant behavior, right? Also, the truth is that just because he's a famous musician, it doesn't mean Drake's not a victim of revenge porn. He was a victim, and either he was a victim of the person he sent it to, exposing him to the world, or who the cyber pirate that broke in there, right? And he doesn't lose his status as a victim simply because he's an incredible artist and incredibly famous and wealthy. Now, should you have to think about that? Should you be less trustful because you're famous? Probably, but it's very sad what happened to Drake, and nobody should be making a damn joke about it.
Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, to all men, I don't care how close you feel or subconsciously or consciously believe that you are to a female. Do not send her any sexual video of you performing sexual acts on yourself or anything else if that's not your wife. Because if it is your wife, then we all can understand that the unit of family, unit was violated. That trust between that woman that you said for sickness or unhealth, for riches or poor, to death do us part, send it to her. But if she ain't your wife, don't send it. Also, I want to make it very crystal clear that you cannot hate anyone based on their skin color. No one controls how they're born into the world. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that hate consumes the hater as well as the hated. And so to hate somebody for their skin color, how they're born, is to hate God for permitting them to come into existence. What we must hate is wrong, evil, and injustice. And we do want to know real history, but not his story, because know that history in America was written by the conquerors and not the conquered.
That's it for the Face-Off on Fox Soul. We'll catch you next time.